Hello, and welcome to another edition of the We Talk Chelsea podcast live on YouTube and TKS TV. We are three Chelsea supporting fans united for a love of Chelsea Football Club who occasionally kick a ball around the pitch, and we watch Timber do a lot of work while me and Charlie shout and try and avoid doing a lot of running where possible. Chaps, you'd think that with the season being over, we'd have nothing to talk about, but what a weekend. We were going to sign Ugarte. Ugarte's deal's collapsed. Mount's on his way to Man United. Kovacic is on his way to Manchester City, despite saying 2 months ago how much he loves the club. It's all go. First and foremost, how are you both doing?
Oh, I'm fine. I mean, it's the end of the season, isn't it? Which is a good thing, I suppose, in the circumstances. But I'm not happy about Mount going. I'm not happy about Kovacic going. I don't know. You tell me, but I just think I don't know. It's a
Well, we've
disgrace.
got we generally schedule an hour in to have a little discussion on this one, but I feel like we had a discussion over the weekend. We were struggling to think of stuff that we were going to talk about, and then all of a sudden, Fabrizio Romano has just played into our hands, has given us all this information, and we'll delve into the Mount, we'll delve into Kovacic, we'll delve into the surprise of Real Madrid trying to come in and take Kai Havertz because Benzema's leaving. It's such an odd. It's an odd. I mean, I say that. I feel like I say this every week. It's an odd time to be a Chelsea fan, but even more odd that the players that we need to go, the Pulisic's, the Ziyech's, there's no rumblings at the moment here. At the moment, it's all players that we actually want to keep as a part of the team. It's a bit of a scary time term, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think when you enter the transfer window or even the end of the season, all these rumors start to pop up. You don't know what's real, what's not. Yeah, you just go into uncharted territory. One person says this, one person says that, but then again, there's always new developments to a transfer. Some people only like to report when the deal is actually done, whereas other journalists maybe give you a bit of an update. Maybe someone's agreed personal terms, and
Yeah.
maybe the deal doesn't quite happen, but doesn't mean like nothing absolutely didn't happen. It's just when people say, "Oh, this person got this wrong," well, we don't know what happened behind the scenes. Like I say, it's at stages. It's kind of like when I'll give you an example of yourself. I don't know, buying a car or
Yep.
buying anything really that's expensive. You start at the smaller stage, you look at everything, you see, oh yeah, it's nice. Then you start looking at the real intricate details, and maybe, I don't know, it's not exactly the price you want, or it's maybe a bit too expensive over your budget, or little details like that. And I think a lot of people often like to think like a lot of things are rubbish, but I believe there is some truth to a lot of them.
Yeah, I think the phrase is "there's no smoke without fire" when it comes to things like this. It's a very weird situation. I don't know about you, but I've got a real bugbear. I think just the people do those edits and they put it on Instagram and it's like Mount in a Man United shirt and
No, yeah.
Ugarte in a Chelsea shirt. It's my biggest pet peeve because I think, oh great, they've signed, and all of a sudden it's like Ugarte discussions, and I'm like,
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
yeah, it's really infuriates me. It's one of my pet peeves. Anyway, we digress. Where should we begin? It's so many options. We can. Okay, Charlie, you mentioned it from the outset. I think the best thing to do is start with Mason Mount. It's looking likely that agreements, well, we say personal terms, have been agreed between the club and Mason Mount. I say the club, Man United. Personal terms agreed, wages all sorted, structure, everything's like third party rights agreed, all that nonsense. It's just the clubs having to agree a fee now. I was, I don't listen to a lot of podcasts myself, but I do occasionally scroll TikTok. And one of the things that came up on TikTok was a guy called Joey Knight. Joey Knight mentioned, and it gave me a perspective that I never considered before when it comes to the Mason Mount situation. And you can argue with it or you can disagree, but I think it kind of struck a chord a little bit. Is like the way that we are at the moment. You know, we need to keep players that actually want to play for Chelsea. Mount's been with the club since he was 6 years old, and he mentioned in his statement that he kind of feels like Chelsea are in a little bit of a downward spiral at the moment, and we need those players to kind of help prop us up. But it kind of feels a little bit like Mount, with a year left, not an agreeing. The rumours are that he turned down a £200,000 a week contract. It doesn't put him on the same level as Reece James, but it's still a £200,000 a week contract. He turned that down. But does it kind of feel like with the situation we're in at the moment, Man United's, from the outside perspective, is considered to be on and up? It kind of feels a little bit like he's jumping ship.
You're asking me?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it sums up the pathetic ownership that we have. I'm sorry to have to say it as bluntly as that. The fact that we have a player who is played for the club since he was 6 years old, who didn't even need an agent before, as far as I'm aware. I'm pretty sure his dad was his agent, or his brother, or someone else, some family member was his agent before. He didn't even had any need to have an agent because he was very happy where he was. He was on a light contract, I would say, a light, very light contract. He asked for some more money, right? Yeah. The money that he was asking for was no more than any other player. I mean, you've got to remember he's an international player, right? He won England the penalty that if Harry Kane would have scored, might have put us into the semi-final of the World Cup. Yeah. So this is what I'm trying to say. He is and the fact that, I'm sorry, everyone goes, the fact that Real Madrid, Man United, Man City, the fact that these teams are in for him, do you think they're just in for him just to annoy us, just to get him off our books and just to annoy us? I don't think so. I think they see something in him, and I think it's a disgrace actually that the fact that we're just going to let him go. And the reason that we're letting him go, and this is another thing I'm going to say, the reason that we're letting him go is purely because of the pathetic ownership of these idiots who have been running our club, who have wasted money and wasted wages on other players that shouldn't have been wasted on. And the only reason that we have to sell Mount now is because they've wasted money on the likes of Cucurella, Koulibaly, even Sterling to a degree, certainly Lukaku, but that's not this generation, I'll give you that. But they're basically in a corner at the moment where they have to sell players that are basically selling our best players. That's the way it goes,
I mean, Tim, do you agree? Does it smell a little bit like Mount's jumping ship, or do you think it's purely a Bowley and Clearlake issue?
I think it's a bit of both. If you read reports, he's rejected several contracts. Obviously, that may be a formality to get what he needed. So I think the recent report came out, he last rejected a contract worth up to 200k. So I don't know if that's with incentives, whether it was like 160k, rising to 200 or whatever. But obviously, as a player of his talent and caliber and what he has shown for Chelsea, I know a lot of people disagree this season. He does deserve in my opinion anyway, I'm not saying it's fact or anything, but he does deserve a contract of maybe about 225k or 240k a week, whatever.
At least something that matches, the Reece James, because he's a Cobham boy as well. They both came through the system, so surely it's not without the realms of possibility.
I get that, but it's also performance incentive. So the better, I suppose, the more accolades and better player you are, probably the higher wage you deserve from what we've seen. And I think Reece James is probably a better player than Mason Mount, and possibly has been more consistent in terms of game-to-game performances over the last year and a half.
Yeah.
But however, I would, because he's an attacker, he obviously will naturally get a higher wage anyway. So I do think it's a sort of a thing of Mount was maybe trying to rise up the sort of wage he wanted to, and we know there was an issue with image rights as well. That was one of the disputes that went down, and maybe because I saw a report yesterday, I think that there hasn't been an offer on the table for a couple of months now. So he thought, well, might as well get myself an agent and look elsewhere if Chelsea aren't going to, come in with an offer for me. I need to protect my own future. If I sign for a new club, I get a signing on bonus fee. His whoever his agent is obviously gets part of that deal as well. So I don't see how Mount can be blamed for looking elsewhere. He has a very short career, so he has to look after number one.
Yeah, it's a weird situation because in the grand scheme of things, yes, they're grossly overpaid, but it's relatively short in terms of tenure for career, unless you go into like management or media side of things as well. So it's like you said, you can't blame him for, looking after himself in that scenario. I kind of lost my train of thought with that.
Yeah, but I'm not. I hate to say it to you, but it's a disgrace, isn't it? That we as a football club now at the end of this season, right? We've signed all these players, right? Mudryk and all these other players, and we are just happy now to just flog Mount, flog Havertz. What are we going to be left with?
Mm.
Do you recognise these players? Do you? I mean, do you look at them and go, "Oh, that's Chelsea"? I don't. I don't recognise them. I can't explain it. I don't. They don't. There's nothing in them that's Chelsea. I can't explain it. It's hard to describe, but I can't look at them and go, "That's Chelsea," because you're flogging them. You're just flogging everyone.
But what does that mean? What does that mean? Sorry, Tim, go on.
I was just going to add to what Charlie said. What he means is like, what sort of precedent are you setting? Are you trying to say anyone is welcome at Chelsea as long as they're just here to collect a wage? Are you trying to say they're here because obviously they're here for a job, but obviously they understand what kind of being Chelsea means? I think what Charlie means by that is understand the culture, the fans, understand what it means to wear the Chelsea badge, as cringy or corny as that may sound, but the kind of intangibles at the same time. You know how like Thiago Silva came and you could tell like he understood what Chelsea meant. I think that's what Charlie means. Like
I agree.
You get the club, you present the club in a good way, and you act like a model professional, as well as you get on with the fans. You take them on board. You take everything, the history, the current. You take everything on board, and I think a couple of the new players we've signed over maybe the last year and a half haven't quite done that, and it's looked such a mess, and you're sort of getting the core of what was left of who did understand Chelsea, and you just taking it straight away and giving it to rivals, which to me doesn't look like a good idea at all. If they had decided Kovacic, Mount, and whoever else they want to sell on, or Havertz best players, ship them abroad. You've seen teams like Arsenal, who else?
Celta City.
Yeah, Celta City, and it's kind of bitten them in the arse. Of course, I know people say we sold Juan Mata to Man United and Matic to Man United.
I think that was a bit different though when it comes to those two players, purely just because Matic and Mata at the time weren't regular starters. Whereas Mason Mount, up until this season, was a regular starter. I think this season, with the drop off in form, whether it could be related to his contract or outside circumstances that we're not privy to, I think we've even had the discussion as well. It's like, why should he be offered a contract when he's been given these opportunities? He's not really taking them. He doesn't look like he really wants to play. He comes on, he gets a yellow card off the bench. It's is it worth putting that risk into signing Mount? It's definitely a tricky situation that we're looking at. I mean, what does it mean for I think one thing, Charlie, I want to throw this to you, is like, what do you feel embodies, being Chelsea? Like, what is the identity that you're going for at the moment? Because we'll review the season as a whole, but it looks like when Bowley and Clearlake came in, they were signing big names in terms of they're getting the Raheem Sterling in, bringing in Koulibaly, big names, putting them on massive wages. But then we see it in the second half of the season. They're signing players. Yes, they're putting a massive outlay on the players as well, but they're reduced contracts. They're not doing the same mistakes as well. It kind of seems like they're still kind of making it up as they go along.
Look, when Bowley and his bunch of people came along, they, you know, by then Rudiger was gone and he was Chelsea. I would say he was Chelsea. Alonso was Chelsea. When I say who's Chelsea, it's not like some sort of, you know, it's not like a game of cards or something where someone comes in and, you know, it's not like what was that game show years ago when they used to have, like, you know, that you know, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point that I'm trying to make is it's not about that. It's not who's Chelsea and who's not Chelsea, and you're not Chelsea and you are Chelsea and this and the other. But Rudiger, Alonso, and Christensen, and even Werner, to be fair, they all won the Champions League with Chelsea. That's the whole point. They won. They had that desire. There's something about it. They've been to cup finals with Chelsea. And Mount, Kovacic, Havertz. That's you know, if we just sell those players, and the players that we're bringing in, they're just, you know, they might be very good players. I you know, I wish them the best, but there needs to be some sort of a spine to that team, and that spine has to come from experience. It has to. You can't just sell these players just because they're worth some money. It can't work. It can't be like that. We're making the same mistakes again. You know, you remember in January, everyone was going, "Oh, we bought too many players." And you remember in May, everyone go, "Oh, Chelsea, they're going to go and sell a load of players." Remember this, right? It's not it's selling the right players. That's the key. It's not just selling anyone. It's selling the right players. And don't go and sell Mount and Havertz. These are the wrong players to sell. Sell Aubameyang. Sell.
But do you not think that they're wanting to sell these players? But you know, with the market, we essentially by the end of June we need to have something. Players, we need to have money coming inwards essentially to mark up with the FFP.
I don't care. I don't care. Look, I'm going to tell you something, right? I actually genuinely believe that it's by selling players we will become better. And that sounds like a really weird statement, but
I don't think it's not a weird statement because I think everybody agrees. Like the club, the squad is massive. It's, you know, with Nkunku coming in as well as Gusto as well coming in. I say Gusto, pronouncing it like he's like one of those meal prep delivery services. With Gusto coming in as well, you know, that squad's only going to get bigger. I don't think anybody that watches Chelsea would disagree that, you know, we need to get rid of players, but it just smells of selling the wrong players. Like if we were sat here now and we said, oh, Pulisic is on his way to Juventus for 20 million and, you know, Ziyech is on his way back to Ajax for 15 million. You're like, yes, perfect. These are the players that we need to be getting rid of. But it's just a very, very, very strange time. Dale here says, as Man United's wages are always high in terms of teams. So if he's on what he would have been at Chelsea, say £200,000, it might be more a case of him jumping ship to a club that might be better going forward. It's kind of hard to argue with that. I mean, I think
completely disagree. Completely disagree.
Please,
could not be further from the truth. Well, how, in a sense, I can understand it from an outside view, but why would Mount realistically want to leave Chelsea when he was trying to stay at Chelsea? It was well reported he's trying to stay at Chelsea. Chelsea aren't offering him the contract. So where does that comment come from? Like,
but if you're looking at it from a perspective of take out him wanting to stay at Chelsea, but
that's the point. You're taking the point out of him staying at Chelsea. You see what I mean? You can't take out a crucial point in that argument and then twist it in your own way. If you get what I mean, the point is he's Chelsea through and through. He loves the club, and I know I might sound a bit biased here, but obviously he was trying to negotiate with Chelsea for a long time, and it's not come to fruition. So clearly his point was to try and stay at Chelsea. That didn't happen, so he's looking elsewhere. It's not like, oh, he thought last season, oh, I'm going to leave now. I want to go to Man United or go to Man City and better myself. No, it's a case of Chelsea and him didn't agree to terms. Now he's trying to move because there's just, you know, he has to go.
In your opinion, both of you, do you feel that there is anything salvageable at this stage? Do you think there's too much? It feels to me like there's too much kind of, you know, chatter on the airwaves about him moving that it's very unlikely to be resolved. Do you feel there's anything that could be done? Say if the Bowley decided, you know what, pay him what he wants, put him on 325,000 a week, we need to keep him. Do you feel that it could be salvaged in any way possible? Do you see, is that the only way it could be salvaged? Do you see anything?
It's if we keep him, it will be a crap deal. That's the bottom line, because we could have had a better deal 6 months ago, but we decided to stick our knees in the ground. Look, it's the equivalent of going on a roller coaster, yeah. And you get in the queue for the roller coaster, yeah, and you look at it and you go, there comes a point, right, that you go, I'm getting on the roller coaster, right? I'm gonna jump on that roller coaster because everybody else around me is going to jump on the roller coaster. I'm going to do that, right? And that's basically what Mason Mount's got in his head. His head is at Man United now, unfortunately, and the only way that we'll keep him is a bad deal, basically, for us. It would be a great deal for him. And we'd all love it, but it's a bad deal. He's not doing it for the right reasons anymore. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I feel like we've spoken about 21 minutes on Mason Mount on this. Let's talk about there's some more surprising thing over the weekend. Kai Havertz linked to Real Madrid, quite heavily linked. It's looking like. Sorry, go on, Tim.
Again, the next comment doesn't make sense. Who said that contract was offered?
Which comment? This one here, Dale.
Yeah,
I don't disagree. I'm just saying if he's on at Man United, what could have been at Chelsea or what was reported to be 200,000, then why would he choose Man United over Chelsea if that contract was offered? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Dale, I'm removing that comment. Come back when it makes sense. Anyway, let's go move across through to Kai Havertz on this one. So Havertz, I didn't see this one coming. Completely honest with yourself, there was rumours that Benzema was sold off to the Saudi League. Charlie's got his own comments on the Saudi League, but it's. I didn't see this one coming at all. I mean, Real Madrid are in the market. Mariano Diaz is left as well. Benzema's leaving. They don't have a striker. They've got less strikers than Chelsea right now. They need some. I'd rather they went for Lukaku, but at the same time, Kai Havertz isn't a striker. Charlie, you mentioned that you don't think it's going to be a good thing for Havertz to leave. But we've all at various stages of the season, all three of us have said, look, Havertz is, he's not good enough. And I think I even said to him, he's stealing a living as a footballer, because there was a lot of games where he just looked like a passenger. And then obviously in hindsight, where the, emotions are taken away from it, you think, he's playing in a number 9 position, which isn't his natural position. He plays as a 10. If we bring in a striker in the summer, he's going to drop out to that kind of side and he playing in his more preferred number 10 role. But do you think now's the right time to cash in on Kai Havertz? It's looking like we're going to make a loss on him as well. Between 40 and 50 is the fee that's kind of been discussed, and we paid, I think it was 72 or something like that for him 3 seasons ago. Do you think now's the right time to cash in him, or do you think, dig a heels in? He's still got 2 years left in his contract.
I don't think we should be selling. If we are going to sell Mount, which it looks like we are going to do, I don't think we should be selling Havertz at the same time. I think this is just especially, I've said it before, if we're going to sell Kovacic as well, we just seem to be flogging the wrong players. I don't get this. These are sort of like staple players, I would call them, in the team. People who are, they might not be, you might laugh and go, they're not quite good enough, but there are certain players that you need to have as staple. If you look at, I'll give you an example. Man United had a very similar, in fact, it's almost identical to what we're going through. They've gone from the top of the tree, and it's taken them a long time. They're still nowhere near the top, right? But they've had to decide who is Man United, and they've kept hold of people like De Gea.
Yeah.
Why? Because he's Man United. There's something about that. There's something I can't quite explain it, but there's something about that. I don't know. I don't understand why we'd be selling. We're selling the wrong players. We need to worry about selling the likes of Ziyech, The likes of Pulisic. These are the players that we need to be worried about, not Havertz. I mean, that's a joke.
I don't think it's not. I don't think it's that we're not trying to sell these players. I just think in this period of time here now, up until the 30th of June, clubs know Chelsea need to sell. They just know. So it doesn't make sense for them to come in for players that they want to get rid of in this period. When they know they need to sell, you may as well just wait to the 1st of July. If I'm somebody that works for Ajax or works for, I don't know, Hertha Berlin, and I want to buy a player, one of Chelsea's cast-offs, I'm not going to try and get this player in before July, because I know that it makes sense that they want to get rid of the pricier players first. And the clubs that want to try and, swoop in like the Man Uniteds and the Man Cities and kind of get a better deal, they're going to go for the players that Chelsea don't want to sell and kind of tempt them and say, look, these offers aren't coming in. The Ziyech offer, the Pulisic offer, they're not coming in. The Ruben Loftus-Cheek one hasn't been signed yet. Is that kind of like dangling a carrot for them?
No, I'm sorry. No. Why are we even debating selling these sort of players? I'm sorry. These are our players. These are the ones that we wanted to keep. Just because I said, we need to sell some players, doesn't mean just open a second-hand, car boot sale for everyone and just go right. Well, have what you want and let's see what we're left with. No, there's got to be some structure to it. We want to keep Mount. We want to keep Havertz. These are the players we want to keep. Nothing. Why is it? I don't. Do you know what annoys me actually? It really does. It really bugs me actually. Is why is it that we're talking about Havertz and Mount and we're not talking about Aubameyang and Ziyech because they're useless and they should be gone, right? And that's not. It's not anything against you, Tom. It's the point I'm trying to make is that why are we talking about these? These are the players that we're selling. Why? I don't get it.
Can I comment on that?
Please do.
Yeah, it's clear and simple. They've got more suitors. They're worth more money. They're the ones that are going to get us what we need.
So basically, Tim, what you're saying now is we're going to be left with, a pub team.
No, that's not what he's saying. What he's saying is the players that were going to be sold regardless, like Pulisic's and the Ziyech, they will be sold at some point in the summer. They're not going to be left. Can't see Pulisic staying. I can't see Ziyech staying. They will be sold at some point this summer. It's just like what Tema said. Havertz, Mount, they're the commodities. They're the players that clubs want. They are. They just are.
So what? So why does it matter? Look, I want Harry Kane. I want Harry Kane. Think of it this way. You want me to talk about him?
Right. Think of it this way. When it comes to players like Kovacic or with Mount, there's probably 10 clubs that put a bid in for him, or at least sniffed around him, or put the feelers out for him. But when it comes to something like Ziyech, it's probably 1, 2.
And also, you look at the age, potential, transfer fee. All of that comes into effect when you're looking at a transfer.
So you think, in my room, sorry.
And we need to raise funds before June the 30th, and they're the highest. Yeah, they're going to bring us in the most money. So obviously, we will try get them out first because,
and we'll no need surprise to as well.
And this is another thing with a big transfer, more time it takes. So the more time we will need to actually replace them as well, depending on how quick we want to act. So it's best to get your best players out as soon as possible and get the next best players in before you start.
Before some other club comes in and swoops in and takes them.
Yeah, for your first targets.
And it's like we're saying, Charlie. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants those Pulisic's and the Ziyech's, those players staying. I can't see us at the start of September. I mean, I could be completely wrong. This is Chelsea at the end of the day. This is the Clear Lake Consortium's kind of way of doing things. But I can't see those players still being there at the end of the summer. It's just not. We're not going to be left with those players. It's going to be it's very much wholesale changes. Like, I think anybody that's been there for less than 2 years is probably a bit safe, other than Aubameyang. But all the other players that have been there a longer time, I think they're all kind of on the chopping block, rightly or wrongly. Like, I think you got to remember, it's like, we agree with you, Charlie. Like, we'd rather keep Havertz, we'd rather keep Mount, but we kind of understand why that there's more discussion about them than there are than the Ziyech's and the Pulisic's. I'm saying Ziyech and Pulisic so much, it's almost, when you say a word so much, it loses meaning.
Yeah, and the funniest thing is we'll probably be stuck with them next season. This is what
But
the
we
problem
won't.
is. Why? Hey, we say we won't, but all we're talking about is Mount and Havertz. These are two players that we weren't even on the agenda a month
But the
ago,
reason,
and now
yes,
all
but
of a
the
sudden
reason
they're on
why,
the agenda. Who cares?
yeah,
If it was
but they
me,
are
right?
on
If
the
that was
agenda.
me, I'd be looking around that dressing room, be going, right, Aubameyang, Ziyech, Pulisic, you lot, right? I want you on like Oliver Twist style, a boy for sale, and I'll be dragging them through London town and just trying to see who wants to buy them. That's how I would do it. Get rid of them first, because we need to get rid of those guys first. Nothing to do with Matt Havertz, and then let's see where we're at.
I feel like you're not listening to Tim's point whatsoever.
I am listening to Tim's point, but
I genuinely believe that the club have already done that. The problem is there's no clubs that want to get them yet. Other clubs, think of it this way: Chelsea want to get the best players in. Other clubs want to get the best players in possible. So if they got, say for example, I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there, AC Milan, they want to try and get the best player in that possibly can. They're going to look at their transfer targets reasonably, and they're going to think, okay, who feasibly can we get in? And then after a few weeks,
and in August they're suddenly going to have a premonition and go, oh yeah, I forgot about Aubameyang. I thought he was available. No, they know he's available anyway. It doesn't matter. Just go and sell him now. Why are we waiting? What are we waiting for? It's not a secret that we've got Aubameyang.
We can't force somebody to buy them. I don't understand what you don't. What's confusing about. You can't force somebody to buy them. I guarantee you they've been put in the shop. They've been put in the shop window. Just nobody's bit yet. Nobody said, "Oh, do you know what? Here you go. Here's 10 million. Cheers." Nobody's done that. That's why.
So basically, I don't get it. I just don't get it. I honestly don't get it. Basically, Ziyech was nearly signing for PSG in January, right? And it was apparently a fax machine error that cost him his contract, right?
Yeah.
Surely it could be that easy to get rid of him. Surely.
But they might have just moved on to other transfer targets.
And also,
in a transfer window? They couldn't even buy anyone.
But they're also getting a new manager in as well.
I mean, come on. Even so, it doesn't matter. Just get rid of these people. I don't understand why are we waiting till the end? I mean, can you imagine, right, at the end of this summer, if we get rid of Mount and Havertz, right, and we're left with Ziyech and Pulisic, and this time in 3 months' time, we're going to be sat here talking about how Ziyech and Pulisic are going to fit into a Pochettino team. No way. Sorry.
Let me word it to you this way. So, say for example that we need to make £100 million worth of sales, and we actively say, okay, we're not going to put Havertz on the chopping block. We're not going to put Mount. They're completely off the cards. We'll see what we look like towards the end of the season and towards the end of the transfer window. Go from there. What we need to do is get rid of Pulisic and Ziyech. They're the people in the window. Clubs know we need to sell money. The clubs know we need to sell players. The problem is, if you want to get a premium rate for some of these players, that Ziyech 15 million, that's been rumored, like Pulisic 20 million, yada yada yada. Clubs at this stage are not going to offer that to them. Clubs at this stage will be like, "Oh, we'll give you 5 million, we'll give you 6 million." They will lowball massively at this stage. They just will. And if you got those, would you gladly get rid of 10 players and only get like an outlay of like 40 million?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense.
I'll let Tim answer the question.
Tim, you're the voice of reason in the scenario. Like, I feel like you'd be able to kind of be best level-headed because I mean, Charlie and I kind of like that right now.
Yeah. Sorry, what was the question?
Would you basically the question is, would you rather Ziyech just sat around on the bench
would you rather sell Ziyech?
Would you rather just take a fiver for
would you rather sell Ziyech now would you rather sell Ziyech for £1 million now or £15 million in 2 months' time?
Well, you'd probably go for the £15 million, I suppose.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You can reinvest the money.
It's a new manager at the end of the day. If he decides if he wants to stay another year, then he can on the bench because he's probably not going to start anyway. But I think logically, obviously, you want to get the most out of your transfer fee. And this summer, it's going to be very important that we get players out. And in terms of getting actual players out, I thought what Charlie mentioned about Havertz is kind of right, but kind of wrong at the same time. I think we need to get these players out. It's just who you get them out to. You need to be clever about, it's a competitive sport. You do have rivals. You do have people who have the same, pull power or finances and things like you. It's about taking the lesser evil, I think, in football. Sometimes it's about being smart and coy. And what we've seen under this ownership is that they haven't done a lot of smart things.
Yeah. And we'll get onto that. We'll get into that shortly. I'm very, very conscious of time, chaps, because we've whittled on for rocketed through this in the last 36 minutes. We'll move across to the latest thing. So Ugarte from Sporting Lisbon was the midfielder in question. Apparently, we released we offered to pay his release clause, 52 million euros. I think I read somewhere in some way we offered more than that. I don't know how that works when you've got a release clause that frees you up to talk to somebody, but we offered more than that, and I think in exchange for like a percentage of the club, which I'm not too sure on the legality on that. But that was offered to them, and it looked like on the Saturday, like Ugarte's coming. Apparently wages were kind of a sticking point. We wanted to offer, I think it was like 3 million euros a year, which is like £60,000 a week, which would put him on the lower side of things as well. I know he's on 13,000 a week at the moment at Sporting Lisbon, but then obviously he had the offer from PSG as well. PSG looking to offer 200,000 a week, and Chelsea basically saying, look, we're only going to offer 70,000 a week. I think they pushed it up to try and get him across the line, but it's looking more and more likely that Ugarte is going to sign for PSG. I don't know too much about the player, if I'm completely honest. I don't watch Sporting Lisbon every week. He's highly rated in the grand scheme of things, but it's kind of
Charlie move slightly forward.
Yeah, I'm trying. Yeah.
It's kind of a strange situation that these players already, like, we're trying to move to bring somebody in to immediately replace a midfielder that is looking likely that we're going to lose. Whoa, who's living outside Silverstone right now?
That's me. Sorry.
It's looking likely that it's not like we're going to get Ugarte, and we're going to have a midfield shaped hole. I mean, Tem, I don't know if there's much have you seen of Ugarte. Do you feel like it's a player that we're missing out on? Do you feel like we should have gone at whole hog and pushed for offering more money? It's it's like what Charlie says. We don't want these Ziyeches and these Koulibalys. We don't want another situation like that, do we? For an unknown commodity as well.
Yeah, from looking at his stats and watching clips of him, he looks like a player that obviously profile we definitely miss. A huge ball winner, someone who likes to get in the tackle, gets yellows and red cards and, gets stuck about. And it's something I think we need next to an Enzo Fernandez. Free him up a bit from the dirty work and, stop certain counter attacks from happening. I think Spurs have it in someone like Højbjerg, where, he's a bit of a nasty player, maybe not be the best footballer, but I think from what I've seen from Ugarte, he is actually a very tidy player as well. He can go forward. He can not only break a team from countering, he can actually, counter himself, drive with the ball. Yeah. So, but in terms of the wages, I don't actually know what happened with that deal. I'm not quite sure because it just came up last night that Chelsea backed out. Maybe due to PSG offering him more wages, I don't know, or maybe about that report that apparently we tried to sneak in a minority investment into Sporting, and PSG actually filed a complaint to UEFA about it. So I'm not sure if
the irony.
Yeah, it came out today that they drafted a legal proceeding to UEFA about that report that happened last night, or who knows, maybe. But then again, this happens with super agents. Like his agent is Jorge Mendes. So again, with an agent like that, you're always gonna get two clubs fighting for one player, and the agent in the ear telling this club are offering this. So can you match that? We'll go this, and maybe Chelsea just didn't want to be involved, and they thought, well, this is too much for us. We'll move on to the next target and try our luck again.
Yeah, I mean, Charlie, I know Ugarte is not a player that you've seen too much of, but I know you mentioned that Chelsea need that kind of spine, and Temba mentioned that he's a bit of a nasty bastard. Do you feel like us missing out on that kind of player is detrimental? Let's
No,
not talk about who needs to leave. Let's just talk about the player in question.
no, but it's just pathetic, isn't it? It's just another pathetic embargo. We've just announced to the world that we're interested in the player, and then we just got run around the houses again.
To be fair, we
Why
did
why do
announce
why
to the
don't
world.
what do you think that we'd be very good at Chinese whispers or keep a secret or something like that? We are rubbish. We tell everyone. We literally tell everybody who our transfer targets are. We tell them how much we want and how much we're going to pay and all this sort of stuff. It's embarrassing. And then we just get pipped to the post every time. And even if we do eventually get the player, we overpay for them. Look at Enzo. I mean, he's not worth that amount of money. I'm sorry. Mudryk is not worth that amount of money. No way. And these are the sort of, it's just embarrassing the way that we go about our business. I mean, look, I hate to keep going. Look at Liverpool when they bought that Gakpo guy, right?
Yeah.
No one knew about it until the deal was done. The deal was done. There was no Fabrizio says this and someone else says that. There was none of that. It was just done. The deal was done.
I think it was widely reported it was going to go to Manchester United, and it was going there, and all of a sudden it was swooped in, and then Liverpool kind of just suited it. If my memory serves me, I'm hoping Tem or somebody in the comments might keep me honest on that one, but I think that's what it was. But no, I do have to agree. It's kind of frustrating. People kind of know who we're targeting. So what clubs can do if they're smart about the situation is they can just say, okay, well, Chelsea's put this bid through. I know what they've bid. I know the wages they put through. That's perfect. It means we don't have to put an opening offer. We've got a benchmark to go against. It's one of those things. Obviously, we're linked to other players at the moment. Is it Romeo Lavia from Southampton, and then the other player is Moises Caicedo from Brighton, Premier League player. Do you think Caicedo could potentially be? He's kind of similar to Ugarte, but do you think he's probably somebody that we should target and try and go back to Brighton once again with a hat in our hands? Say, can we have another player, please? Here's a stupid amount of money.
Yeah, this is the problem now. We've left ourselves, unless we're like we were discussing in the group chat about having so many people on the board. You need to come up with now alternative targets and someone who Pochettino actually wants, because we know he actually wanted Ugarte, as he sounded out for Ugarte. So who does the club realistically now say, well, we weren't able to sign Ugarte? Do you have any other options, or maybe do they think of like kind of what FSG did with Klopp and buy him some players and force the hand upon him to use the player? They bought him Salah and Mane. I think he wanted Julian Brandt and Marco Reus, I think was it at the time, or someone else. I remember
really?
he did. Yeah.
That worked out well for him.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say that.
Yeah. So it is really going to fall on this recruitment team to sort of be the backbone of Pochettino and guide him in the right way. So now do we go sign Caicedo for 100 million, which apparently Brighton want, and they've already fleeced us for so much money, like so much money. Do we go back with our hands between our legs sort of thing, or do we maybe somehow find some sort of alternative player that nobody's seen coming, and we just get out of the blue? So my opinion, though, I would sign Caicedo, but that 100 million price tag is just a bit too much.
Yeah.
And apart from that, I think the only other alternative option is Declan Rice, and I don't see him coming to Chelsea either now.
I mean, Charlie, you're a massive advocate of Declan Rice coming to Chelsea, returning back to Chelsea, released as a youth player. He's only got he's got an option of a 2-year extension with West Ham, I think. They've got that option, but they're going to trigger it so they can sell him, essentially. Do you think Declan Rice would be the better option?
Yeah, but you're not going to cut him, is he? So it doesn't, it's what a pointless conversation. I mean, especially if
I mean, why bother having a podcast overall then?
Well, I mean, him and Mount are thick as thieves, aren't they, by all accounts? And I'm sure Mount's leaving out the back door. I'm pretty sure he's probably telling. I doubt he's off, giving Declan Rice, a good opinion of Chelsea at the moment. If he's willing to leave, simple as that. I don't. The thing is, it we are trying to recruit players at the moment who are. We want to recruit the right kind of players, but the problem is what we can offer is basically a mercenary's delight, if you like. That's all we can offer is money. That's the only thing that we have at our disposal at the moment is a mercenary's playground. So we have to tread really carefully about who we recruit. I mean, obviously, I was saying we need to get rid of players first. Yes, that's fine. We will probably recruit 3 players, let's say this summer. That's what I think. I think everyone's sort of in agreement of that. That we have to really, really know these players. I mean, we've made some really howling decisions recently about who we've recruited. We've got to make sure they are in it for the project. It's not about, just because we can pay you 300 grand a week and you can live in West London and all this sort of stuff. That's not why we want you. We want you for the right reasons. And it's crucial because, look, we've recruited so badly in the last year, so badly.
Yeah, and do you think? I know I'm clapping because there's a bloody mosquito flying around the room, and I managed to get it.
I thought you were clapping about my comment.
Absolutely not. No, it was a salient comment. Oh no, it's still there. Go away. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, you make a valid point. I mean, do we think of it this way: the recruitment team came. Did it come with Potter? The recruitment team.
No,
it started forming after.
So after, so they kind of had the one window where they recruited all the players. They spent too much money in terms of outlay for fees, but the wages aren't as bad. I want to. Do you think? I want to play devil's advocate on this one because you and I, people that watch the podcast, and when we in the chat, Todd Bowley, I don't think he's particularly fantastic. He's not done particularly well at the moment. I think he's done some silly decisions at the moment. But do we think he's kind of learning from his mistakes as he goes on? I know he's learning on the spot. And again, Charlie, I'm playing devil's advocate here. But the first window, we spent relatively smaller amounts on players. So Raheem Sterling coming in for 47 million, Koulibaly coming in for 32. But then these players coming on astronomical wages. They're coming in on 300,000 a week. We're having these players, the younger players, and then in the next window, we had the younger players come through. Enzo Fernandez aside, no, he fits into it. So Enzo coming through on, 107 million. On relatively smaller wages with the performance base. Do we see them kind of learning as they're going through and they're still trying to find a medium?
Yeah, I mean, you can, I'll leave this one to 10, but I'll quickly give my side of things. This isn't an industry where you can afford to make these sort of mistakes, unfortunately. The reason that we're selling Mount and Havertz and these sort of people is because of the mistakes that they've made. So we're now making other mistakes, essentially. I wouldn't say mistakes, but we're basically selling players that we probably didn't need to or shouldn't have because of the mistakes that they made in the past. So yes, okay, they might have learned from their mistakes, but unfortunately, it's a very evil industry. This one where it can bite you in the bum very quickly, and they're learning that. And let's see what we're left with.
And how do you feel in terms of this situation? Do you think it's they kind of put 1 foot forward and then 2 steps back, like in this scenario? Like it seems like they kind of got a handle. They don't really know what they're doing. The first window, the second window, they go completely the opposite way, and then this window, it's like, okay, sell all the best players. We're not getting rid of the players we need to get rid of.
Yeah, well, I mean, you hired a manager before you got in directors of football. That kind of says it all, really. Then you decide to get the directors of football. All have different opinions from what the reports are saying. and then you bring in a load of players that the manager necessarily didn't even want. Apparently, Potter didn't think that Enzo was worth the amount of money Chelsea paid for him. I don't know if that's the PR spin Chelsea side or it was actually true, but these sort of rumblings doesn't create a good look on the outside, and you see what's happened during the transfer window, after the transfer window, it all kind of doesn't make sense, bringing it, having a squad of however 34 first team players, messing up Ziyech's transfer at the 12th hour, I think we sent the document wrong 2 or 3 times across the PSV.
Fax machine broke or something like that.
No. Well, I think they sent the incorrect documentation 2 or 3 times. So the professionalism really just doesn't bode well. And you're starting off the summer window selling arguably your core players. How do you get fans on your side? How do you get your manager on your side when you can't even get his first target? What sort of precedent do you set there of being like, we're serious about getting back into the top 4. We're serious about being a top force, and you're selling Kovacic to the club you aspire to be at the end of the day. So it's worrying times. I'm not saying it's not recoverable, but you can understand why every Chelsea fan has a right to be worried or think that. And this is just a point back to kind of Dale's comment earlier about Man United. I think everyone aspires to be Man City. I don't think anyone below that we're much worse off than maybe Arsenal, but the other sides, I think we're not too far away from them if we get the right recruitment. I don't see any other team like light years ahead of us. So again, if we just made 3 or 4 important signings and the manager had time, I think we would be on par with any of those top 6 teams apart from Man City and Arsenal. So I think it's more about creating that winning culture and making the players and fans and everyone at the club believe like there is a structure, because at the moment it just is a scattergun approach.
And I have to agree, like it is a massively a big scattergun approach. When you think of, okay, we started the season with Thomas Tuchel, sacked after, still a somewhat decent starting. When you look at the grand scheme of things, I think we're going to run out of time to do the review of the season. But in the grand scheme of things, Tuchel didn't have that bad of a start. He lost to Dinamo Zagreb in the group stage of the Champions League. But the issue that we have is, then we bring Potter in, and then we bring the Brighton people through, the recruitment team. And then there's another window through there. And, you bring that recruitment team through, you have new managers, you have Tuchel say, these are the players I want. I want Aubameyang. He's the striker for me. I've got experience working with him. And then Potter comes, he gets sacked the week after, and Potter comes through as like, well, I don't want to work with Aubameyang. And then you get the recruitment team come through, and you get the directors of football through at the beginning that are coming through, and they've all got different agendas. The problem is there's no outright person that's got the be all end all say on who gets brought in. Everybody that's involved in that kind of process have their own agenda. All 3 of us, when we have these discussions now, there's players in the team that we really like from an individual standpoint. There's players in the team that we really don't like from an individual standpoint. Charlie would absolutely can't stand Cucurella. It's just one of those things. I think it's one of the players that we do actually all agree on, to be fair. But there's different areas of place. You see what I mean? If all 3 of us are a recruitment team, Temba's going to have players that he's looking at Brighton. He thinks, I really want Moises Caicedo. And Charlie's like, no, Declan Rice is the person we should get. And you got that agenda going through. And then I'm like, do you know what? The person we should really be going after in this scenario is James Ward-Prowse. Why not? And we've got 3 different names going after that. And then it gets put forward to Clear Lake and the people that represent it. And they're the people that don't have any footballing experience. And they're, we've got 3 different people all saying different things. And there's no one person, the manager. Look at Man United this season, Ten Hag players. Ten Hag, I truly believe, has got the final say. He's like, okay, I want this player. Go for him. Get these players. And then they're like, okay, you're the person we're going to back. will go for those players. And I think that's what's missing. And I'm kind of hoping when Pochettino joins officially at the start of July. I'm sure he's still working in an unofficial capacity at the moment, but I'm really hoping that it's like he's got the final say. He says, okay, the recruitment staff go, these are the options for players who are here, and he might say, I could work with those two. But I like these players as well. I think it would be something that I think it would be beneficial to have somebody, an authoritative figure. Like look at Marina. Before she left, she's like, okay, well, she's like going out for those players. There's no authoritative figure anymore at the club. It's kind of like the blind leading the blind, and it's just, I feel like that's definitely a part of the identity that's missing. I don't know if you guys think it's different.
It's a problem with football though these days, isn't it? It's stupid. Like how long has it taken us to get this Pochettino on board? Right, 2 months, right? Negotiating this, that, and the other, right? And yet it's not up to him who we buy and sell, is it? Let's face it, right? It's up to the board. Do you think he wants to sell Mount? Probably not. Does he want to sell Havertz? Probably not. Does he want to buy, I don't know, whoever? Probably not. That's just the way it is. That's just the way football is, unfortunately. It's stupid, but these clowns that we've got in charge of the club at the moment, I'm sorry, they are so out of their depth. They're so tin pot. They annoy me. Like everything that they do annoys me. And it annoys me as well that people seem to have some, oh yeah, we'll give them a second go. No, sorry. Do you not?
What do you mean give them a second go? Do you mean Clear Lake as a whole, give them a second go, or players?
Well, I'm not being funny. Clear Lake as a business, as an operation, or an investment company. They're not here to, they're not around to, give you a face paint and give you a nice sponsored shirt. They're here to make money. Simple as, right? So when we're selling Mount and we're selling Havertz and all this sort of, and we're going, oh, I wonder what's going on there. Why are the fans not banging on Clear Lake? It annoys me, actually. It really does annoy me. Why are the fans, not going, hang on a second, Bowley, what's going on here? And we go, I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think, Tem and I, we don't disagree. We'd rather have it stayed. I'm sure there's 99% of Chelsea fans out there that think, and we may as well keep them. We bought Havertz for 72 million. Like, I think if he was played in a number 10 position and utilised in that correct position, if it comes to a stage where we do sell him to somebody like Real Madrid, what's to say we can't get in excess of 100 million for him at that stage? It makes sense.
Can I just ask you a question now? I'm going to ask you a question. If we would have got in the Champions League this season, okay, and if Koulibaly would have been a brilliant player and Cucurella would have been a brilliant player, do you think we'd be selling Havertz and Mount now? No way. We're selling them because of their rubbish transfers, their rubbish business minds, and useless club owners. I'm sorry. Simple as. Right? We're selling players that are staple players of our club purely because of their useless decisions that they've made in the last 6 months. And what we're going to go, we'll give them a say, oh, well done, they've got Pochettino. Well done, brilliant. No, sorry. These are players that should have DVDs made about them in 10 years' time. I can't explain this more to you. This is
they will. They will have DVDs made of them.
Yeah,
the problem
for Man United probably.
For Man United, yeah.
Exactly. do you understand what I'm trying to say, though?
Yeah.
We're just flogging these players because of these idiots' mistakes.
It would be nice to see some sort of form of accountability, and I think we have to remember we are still 5 days into the transfer window officially. So we kind of, at this stage, I think it should be fair that we should give somewhat of a benefit of the doubt and see, things can change. Things can change in a week's time. We don't know what's going to happen. Ugarte had signed for us on Saturday and Sunday he wasn't. So, things can change. But it's one of those things. But boys, we're not going to get round to to doing the season review. We'll probably have to say that one for next week, but I appreciate you both for joining me. We've been live on YouTube and on TKS TV. We really appreciate you all for joining us this week. If you can do, that would be absolutely fantastic. If you hit that subscribe button, if you haven't done so already. If you've got any Chelsea fans or any fans of football in general that like seeing Chelsea fans in misery, maybe Arsenal Fan TV, you might follow them as well. You might be an Arsenal fan. You might think, let's laugh at Chelsea this season. We're probably the ones to do. But I appreciate you both for joining me today. We will be back next week at 9:30 p.m. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all next week.